Okay, today we're doing part 2 about medicine. And before I start, I'd have to apologize that there's a bunch of things that I'm going to just say. We once talked about this, and I'm going to be more bekitzer about it. You have to live with that. Okay. Last time we saw that there's going to be 3 issues to this when we try to decide whether medicine needs hashgacha or not. I'm sorry, medicine without hashgacha, whether you can take it. The first was whether it's edible. That's what we spoke about last time. Second was is about what the ingredients are, and the last is how sick the person is. Just to recap, for how edible things are, basically we came out that the only one that we got off the hook for being inedible was tablets that you swallow, and then the gel caps, which we'll talk about a little more today, end up being a shleika derech. And vitamins are a little interesting, and everything else was considered edible. Okay, so that's now that we know that which ones we have to be more worried about. So now our next thing to think about is the ingredients that are in them. Okay, which is we have to say which ones are asur midaraisa midrabanan, which ones are for sure issur, which are safek issur, and which ones are batul. Okay, and this second section is the place where people involved in hashgacha have the most value. That's why we're talking about this. Because we're the people who hopefully understand the most about ingredients, how they use, and how much they are, how else they could be, and things like that. The part 1 and part 3 are not the parts that we have the most to contribute to that. But this second part is the one where we have the most knowledge about. Okay, so I'm gonna divide for our purposes ingredients into 5 different levels of how bad they could be. Okay, and the first one is, of course, are things that are asur midaraisa. Like the things that you see here. So, like these are all things that are used in medicinal items. So lipase comes from goats, and I don't even know how to pronounce the next one. Comes from duck livers, and glucosamine comes from shark, and carbon comes from bugs, and on the bottom wheat comes from is chametzik. Okay, so those are things that are those. If that's in there, that thing is asur midaraisa. Okay, then we have things that are just safek deraisa. Okay, so
those things are used as medicine, or they're like what usually these things are in there.
Some of them are medicinal, meant to be medicinal, and some of them are not meant to be medicinal. Okay, and then safek deraisa. So our best example of that, of a thing that's really safek deraisa, is glycerin, because it could come from animal fat, in which case it's just plain old asur midaraisa. It could come from vegetable oil, in which case it's probably kosher. And then on the lower half, all these kind of other things in the chametz, which are sorbitol and xanthan gum and things like that. All those things are things that are made from glucose, the fermentations with glucose, which are made from starch, which could be from anything. Okay, so in most of the world they're not chametz, they're just going to be kidneys. But in Europe, Australia, then they can be chametz. Okay, so those are all, these are safek deraisa. I mean, if the sorbitol is made from wheat, then it's chametz, just plain asur midaraisa on Pesach. If it's not, then it's not. Okay. Next is things that are asur midrabanan. Okay, so grapeseed extract is stam yayin, and gelatin is not really asur midrabanan, but for our purposes, we treat it as, that was I spoke about last time. We treat it as if it's asur midrabanan. That's what we spoke about last time. And dairy depends. I mean, for some people, things that are chalav stam are automatically asur midrabanan. And even people who eat chalav stam, sometimes from funny countries, it could be asur midrabanan. You know, they don't agree that it should be chametz. It should be chalav stam should be moved to those places. Okay, now there's another thing that in theory should be on the bottom of this, which would be kidneys for Pesach. But in practice, it's not. In practice, we don't treat it as asur midrabanan, and that's because 2 things. First of all, is chayla is allowed to eat things that are made from kidneys. So when we're thinking about medicines, we don't really think about, is this thing made of kidneys, because the person who's going to take this is going to be allowed to take kidneys anyhow. Not every case, not every medicine that someone takes are they sick enough, so to speak, that they can take kidneys, but by and large. And second is that kidneys is batal b'roiv. Okay, so it's uncommon that the kidneys thing should be the bulk of the item is made of kidneys. That's not sort of common thing. I mean, I guess it could happen, and I guess maybe would catch our attention, but by and large, we ignore kidneys when it comes to medicine when we think about the Pesach questions of medicine.
And it's kidney sheshtan also, right?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. No, not necessarily. If a starch, let's say, it's not kidney sheshtan, it's just plain old starch. It's cornstarch. So sometimes it's kidney sheshtan, but Okay, then we have things that are only suffer with rabbanon. Okay, so whey and lactose could both have problems of gvinas akum to them, and flavors I'm going to talk about in a second. Why put that into this column? Okay, and then the last things that are totally innocuous. Okay, so here I put kidneys on the bottom for the Pesach side of it because from our perspective we treat it as if it's nothing. Essentially, we treat it as nothing. And then some other things are made from plain ingredients or made from petroleum, things like that. Okay, so far I just told you different categories of how the ingredients are. That doesn't mean that if there's lipase in my food or there's gelatin in my thing that it's automatically it's issur midraisa midrabanan or however I grouped it again. Because the next thing you have to think about is which things are batal.
So is that kidneys is mutter from mechush?
No, it's not mutter from mechush. But a lot, right? So it's true. So a lot of the people are taking these things. I said might not qualify, but we mix to that with the fact that it's always batal b'roiv, so which is going to make it mutter. I guess we completely ignore it, but we essentially ignore it. Okay. Again, if it catches your attention, they say this whole thing is made of kidneys, then that might be more serious, But okay, now, so the rule is if there's less than 1.66%, then it's batal b'shishim. Okay, it's a tiny amount, then it's batal b'shishim. Okay, and if something is batal b'shishim, then it's mutter. Then again, I'm not talking about it's mutter. So you let eat it. So then we wouldn't have to worry about it. Okay. So if we had an ingredient here that was in tiny amounts that was batal b'shishim, we're not going to worry about it. Okay, but sometimes something is so important, something plays such an important role in the food that it can't be batal. It's in a tiny amount, but it can't be batal. Like if it's a davar ma'amid. I think it's a davar ma'amid. Okay, like we use yeast to make wine, so then the yeast is a tiny amount, but it's not gonna be batal. Or it gives chazuz, so like the carmine that's over here, that's in the first column over there. Carmine is used to give color. It doesn't have the medicinal purposes and doesn't anything else. It gives a color, so it won't be batal. Okay, but almost everything that can't be batal because it's too important is only not batal midrabanan. Okay, so that tells me even if there's carmine in my food, in the medicine there's carmine in there, but the carmine is only not batal midrabanan. Midraisa, it is also midraisa, but the fact that it's not batal is only a drabanan. Okay, so that calms that lessers the issur, and when we get to the end, you'll find out why that's going to make a difference. Issur drabanan is also, but we'll find that makes a difference also. But one example of where something that's not batal, even if it's in tiny amounts, is something that's a vital time. Okay, that's in most cases that's midraisa. That's not going to be batal. Okay, what does that have to do with us? So the most obvious case that's indicated to us is for flavors. Okay, so here's my first thing I'm going to tell you that I'm giving you just a kitzur of what we once talked about. Why, even though flavors are a vital time, when we see a flavor that has no hashkach on it, we'll usually assume it's not as serious as it might sound like it could be. Okay, and that goes like this: 3 parts. The first like this. There's a rule which is called melach habelul midam. Okay, we have salt, and we use it to salt meat, and so it has blood inside of it. Okay, the salt itself is a vital taima. Tiny amounts of salt can't be batal because they give a strong amount of taste. But salt is kosher. It's just that it has blood absorbed into it. The blood is not a vital taima. Blood doesn't give it tam in tiny amounts like that. So if I put bloody salt, salt that was used for salting meat, I have that bloody salt, and I mix it into a food, it could be batal b'shishim. Because the salt is kosher, the blood is treif, but the blood is not a vital taima. The fact that we mix them together doesn't make the blood a vital taima, and the blood could be batal b'shishim. Okay, now that's very relevant to a flavor. It means we make something. The components that give flavor have to be inherently treif. So, for example, lauric acid is used in making tropical flavors. Okay, ethyl laurate is used to make tropical flavors. Lauric acid is inherently kosher. It comes from vegetable oil. It's kosher sensitive because it's made on kalim that are used for animal fat. So it's kosher. It has a blia of treif. Okay, so you can't eat it because it's treif. But it could be batal b'shishim, even though it's a vital time. It gives us tropical flavor. Doesn't make a difference because the treif of it is not. It's not inherently treif. It's only treif because it has a bleed from something else. So it could be batal b'shishim. Okay, so that's one part of that. In order for a flavor, something in a flavor to not be batal because of vital time, it has to be inherently treif. Okay, now the second thing is that it's quite unusual to have something it is avidul time, meaning it gives flavor, it contributes to the flavor, and it's inherently treif midaraisa. Okay, to be inherently treif, it has to do with which fatty acids are the ones that have better smells and which ones don't. It's unusual that you should have something that's asa midaraisa and that should also be inherently treif. Asa midaraisa and inherently asa midaraisa and also avidul time at the same time. So now there's some that are asa midrabanan, like wine fusel oil comes from stam yayin, or starter distillate comes from gvinas akum. Okay, so those are inherently treif, but they're asa midrabanan. To find asa midaraisa is pretty hard, except when we come to Pesach, because a lot of those chemicals are made by fermentation, and if they're made from chametz, then it's inherently treif, inherently in this case chametz, inherently chametzik, and it could be avidul taima. And then that would be that could be a problem. But for year round, it's pretty unusual. We have something inherently treif. That's also avidul time. And the last part is that when you make a flavor, this drink over here, this tangerine flavor, okay, has no tangerines in it, I assume. I should have checked before I said that. Oh, it actually says natural essence. Okay, I don't know if that means it has tangerines either. Just things that are natural. Okay, it has natural things in it, and has many components that make it taste like tangerine. Okay, so the many components that make it taste like tangerine in some circumstances, depending on what it is, it could be zev zagar may play a role in there also. Okay, depending on how things are, it may play a role in there also. Okay, so because of all those things, when you have something in it that has a flavor, which we don't know if the flavor is kosher or not, so we give it the equivalent status as a issur drabana, as a possible issur drabana. The chances of being asa midaraisa are very small. So again, if I want to drink this drink, I would only drink it with hashgacha. But when we're coming to a medicine and we're thinking about what's the bottom line, what would be the ikra din for a person who's sick who needs to take it, we don't take it. We're not taking it. We don't take it so seriously.
Well, what about their balance?
What do you say?
What about the derabanan?
So derabanan, for again thinking about the person who's taking it, we're going to come to assume what it is. For the person who's taking it, it's not so serious, and even the derabanan are not so common. How common is it that it's going to be started distillated in the flavor? It's not such a common thing. All those things play into. For you to take it for just because you like this flavor, you shouldn't do it. But if a person who's sick, then there's.
I'm saying it's a suffix derabanan.
Yeah, it's a suffix derabanan. It's not derabanan. It's a suffix derabanan. So is that mutar asur? So okay. Okay, so now from that, so taking what we had on this screen of these different levels of isurim, and all I told you now about things being bottled, now I break things, the ingredients, medicine ingredients into these 4 different groups. Okay, in fact, that's how we break them down. We use these words. This is how we break them down into 4 groups. Okay, and in there, okay, the first is things that are innocuous. Okay, so for year round, lots of active ingredients and some of those ingredients that I mentioned before that are innocuous. And for Pesach, also there's lots of things that are made from petroleum or just different minerals that are there's nothing to them. Everything they're completely innocuous. Okay, then we have ones that we call trivial. I meant to put the definition how I define on the bottom. Okay, trivial are things that they're always in tiny amounts. They're going to be bata b'shishim. We're not chosh. There's no concerns of them being davar hamaymid or anything like that. Okay. So in this case, you'll notice the flavors as I put onto here. But polysorbate 20, I meant to explain that there's 3 common polysorbates: polysorbate 20, 16, 80, and the number has to do with which fatty acid is used in making it. And 20 is made from lauric acid. Okay. 20 is made from lauric acid. So what's sensitive about it for year round is the lauric acid in it. So remember I told you, lauric acid is inherently kosher. So it's only just a melech habulu midam. So polysorbate 20 is a davar hamaymid. It's often is a davar hamaymid. But davar hamaymid has to be inherently treif also. Polysorbate 20 is not inherently treif. Okay, so we treat it as trivial because it could be treif. It could be treif, but not in a way that would be a problem because it would be batal anyhow. Okay, as opposed to I believe in the next line is going to tell you the polysorbate 1680. Okay, poly 60 comes from stearic acid, and poly 80 comes from oleic acid. Those are both things that could be inherently treif. Okay, so then that's very different. So then that's not trivial. It's not that what we call minor issues are things where it could be they're not kosher, but either they're only a shali of d'rabbanan, like the lactose. At worst, it would be midrabbanan, it would be gvinas akum, or it would be something the 60, where it could be inherently treif, but the reason why it's not batal is only a drabonatic principle. What's stopping it from being batal is because of davar hamayimid. Okay, it's not batal. If it's treif, it's not batal. But that in itself is a drabonan. It might be asur midaraisa, but what's stopping it from being batal is a drabonan. So we call it a minor issue.
Why is
And
that for alcohol then?
what do you say?
Why is that for alcohol?
Why is ethyl alcohol? It's a really funny question. We treat it as if it's
Drink vodka, you can.
that's true. So I've thought about that. How come? So sometimes we're nicer to people.
Innocuous.
So you think we should move it over?
Yeah.
Okay. So we I don't know. It's a good question. Okay. And then
Did you skip magnesium stearate?
did I skip magnesium stearate? I think it didn't fit onto the
True.
line.
Is there?
Oh, it's there. I'm sorry. It's on the
it
trivia.
is there, but you didn't explain it.
I didn't explain it. I different year explained it. Magnesium stearate would be inherently
It's
treif.
not stearic acid.
It's made from stearic acid. It is, but it's always bottled. Okay, it puts it in tiny amounts just to help pills. It has nothing to do with the medicine. It has to do with the manufacturing. It helps the pills slide through machinery better. It has nothing to do with it, and it's always in tiny. As far as we know, always in tiny amounts. And it would be bottled. That's why I got a trivial. I thought I didn't get it on. Okay, and our last category is things that are serious. So here, serious means is that the potential here is an issur d'oraisa, or it's an issur d'rabbanan that would seemingly assume not to be bottled. So on our year round, we have glycerin and fish oil and grape juice. Those are some examples. And for Pesach, the wheat injection I mentioned before, and in malt, of course, And xanthan gum is just, I put it here just because it's interesting, because xanthan gum is different than most other gums, that for whatever reason, it's put in amounts that are not batal b'shishim. Okay? For whatever reason, it's put in amounts that are not going to be batal b'shishim, as composed to most of the other gum type things are put in tiny amounts, and they're just davar hamayimid. This might be actually an avidah time. Okay?
Grape juice is more than
grape
sheish.
juice, yeah.
What do you say?
Grape juice is more than sheish.
Depends how it is. Depends what it is.
Why get more so much grape juice?
If it's in a food, you need cheese.
No, we're talking about
Medicine.
we're talking medicine. So I don't.
Why sheish in medicine? It's only if it's liquid.
No idea. So it all depends on the situation. Yes, but potentially, if it would be in there, we'd say, "Whoa, this would catch our attention," because it's something that would be assumed to be asur midaraisa. I forgot to mention. I want to mention for sure asur d'rabbanan. I'm sorry, for sure asur d'rabbanan, but it's not sofig. It's just assumed to be asur. I forgot to mention. I'm sorry that there's something unusual for Pesach, and that is a lot of. I don't know what just struck me now, but I meant to mention it. A lot of liquid medicines, not over-the-counter medicines, liquid prescription medicines. When you buy them when you get them from the pharmacy, they don't come to the pharmacy in liquid. They come to the pharmacist in powder form, and the pharmacist adds water to it and gives it to you. It's easier for shipping and it doesn't spoil, etc. Okay, so that just you have to just bear that in mind, because when we assume that an ingredient that's chametz would be bottled, it's bottled based on how you use it. Okay, but if you're getting just the powder, that means is it might be a very tremendous amount, a relatively large amount than the powder, and it's only becoming bottled when you add the water to it. Okay, who cares? Well, I cares because on Pesach, chametz is b'mashu. It's b'mashu if it happens on Pesach. So if I bought it on the day before Pesach and it was bottled, I'm good. But I buy it on Pesach and the guy actually mixes the water in, then we have the potential. We say, let's say the flavor. The flavor is always bottled b'shishim. And therefore, we only have to think about if it's avidah, time, and things like that. Not necessarily. I don't know if it's necessarily batal b'shishim when it's in the powder form, because the powder, after we add all the water, now it's going to be batal b'shishim.
Let's be at akum, not bottle. Is
Yeah, correct. It is also much. Yes, there's a big difference. Anybody who does, that's correct. Okay.
So it's always good to get your medicine before Pesach, if you know about it.
No, because it isn't so common that those kind of medicines
So a flavor,
have
like
come to.
a kid's flavored medicine to get the refill before Pesach.
So it's not so common that thing should have actually be chametz stick. But if you had a choice, you could get it the day before instead of the chol hamoed. Yes, it would be better. If it's not, you'd probably take it.
Kids' antibiotics have a chametz in them.
Well,
Sometimes. So antibiotic.
okay, so to answer that question, probably not. Without looking at the ingredients, probably they don't have chametz in it. But that's one part of the answer. The other part of the answer is that we're going to come to in a second. Is that anything you're taking antibiotics for, you would take it anyhow, even if it would be chametz. Okay, most of the things that you take, and we're getting that in the next part. Most of the things that antibiotics are for are things that if you don't treat them, they will lead to a suffix sakon. Okay, not all, not everything, but a lot of the things. Okay, so
if you have ear infection,
yes, that's correct. Okay, you're right. Okay, now one more part over here, and that is, this is something we talked about a different time. Again, I'll do it so shortly. Is What about, should we ask the company? And say,
Why is there no middle grounds for Pesach?
I didn't think of good examples to put into there. There probably are things like that, but I wasn't in that mode at that point. I was thinking, what can I put into there? I didn't think it's like, I didn't have anything exciting to put into there, so I left it blank. It's in the spirit of Pesach. It's Kadesh Yishala Tanakis.
The flavors have chametz in them.
So a flavor is made. A lot of the flavor components are made from things that are made by fermentation. Made by fermentation, it's a suffix.
You
Potentially,
see flavors in a medicine, and you're coming to use it on Pesach. Is the concern was going to always be bottled for Pesach?
so we working with an assumption that kemat, all those things that are made that can make from anything that are, it's not on here, that it can be made from any starch. In most of the world, they're not made from chametz. It's only in European. So the Europeans, they have a problem. Us, we don't usually have a problem. Our stuff that could be made, the flavor, that part that could be made from anything that could be made from chametz is probably made from corn, or if in the Far East is made from rice or sweet potato or things like that. Okay, so we don't think about it as much. For us, it is in theory a potential. It could be chametz. So in our listing, we would say it's possible chametz. But if you want to, can I take it? Then you probably take it.
But
You never know where it
medicines
came
that are, if the manufacturer is a European company, are they going to be manufacturing in Europe and then importing it to the United States, or they're importing it locally?
If it said on the thing it was made in, if it was a European company, we'd be more worried about it. Yeah, we'd be more worried about it. It's not so common. I don't know how common that is.
Medicine manufacturer?
I don't know how common that is. Okay. Do you want to say something? Okay, let's we got to move on. We're getting there. We're having more pretty pictures coming up here soon. Is that come from Europe?
Does it come from Norway? No.
I have no idea.
Novo
I don't know where it's manufactured. The company is
I have
European.
no
But the
idea.
European company has plants here. Some of
I
these
know there's-
multinational corporations have
Yes.
plants
Many
here.
of them.
Correct.
That's what I was wondering.
They make it locally. I have no idea.
The serious list over here is not going to generally be bottled.
That's why it's on serious. Because it's something that either it's awesome with the rice and not bottle, or awesome with the rabbanon, and we're assuming that it's not bottle. Yes. Okay. So. Okay. I'm not going to tell you. We assume we don't ask companies for information. Without explaining to you why, we don't ask companies. We just look at ingredients and make our decision based on our understanding that this is ingredient. Would it be more or less likely to be chametz or treif or things like that, as opposed to some others who ask companies for information. Okay, let's move on to part 3. Okay, part 3. Okay, how sick the person is and how that plays a role in this. Okay. So there's 3 levels of how sick, so to speak, a person could be. A person who's a chayil sheish b'sakana, any possibility it might be in danger, that person could do even issur d'oraisa. Okay, there's even a tzad, Machaber says, and Mishmur talks about, maybe he can even do things that are not for his health, even not directly for his health. Okay, that's his own little shaila. But a chayil sheish b'sakana can do everything. So we had on the screens before, we found out that certain things, we know from the last time that certain things are edible. We know from a minute ago that certain things are actually a chashash of d'oraisa. But if a person is a chayil sheish b'sakana, he shouldn't worry about that. I'm gonna give 2 little exceptions in a second, but basically he shouldn't worry about that. Okay, then we have a person who's a chayil she'ein b'sakana. Okay, he's incapacitated. Okay, he's not functioning like a regular person. He can't sleep, or he can only sleep, or something like that. Okay, so that person can do. This is the rule. He could do issur d'rabbanan, except for things that are issuri achila b'drabbanan. Okay, like stam yayin. Okay, he can't do issuri achila b'drabbanan. And the exception to the exception is that if he's eating an issur shaloi kederach achila, that's an issur achila, but it's issur d'rabbanan, he's allowed to do that. Okay, so he's allowed to do regular issur d'rabbanan. He's allowed to violate regular issur d'rabbanan by and large. He's not allowed to do issur achila that are awesome d'rabbanan, but isurim achila that he's eating shaloi kederach, like jalkat, he's allowed to take. Okay, little kids are assumed to be chayil she'ein b'sakana, automatically chayil she'ein b'sakana. The way Rabbi Shechter would explain it, he would say is a kid, as soon as he gets some kind of a little ache, he's automatically ois mensch. He's completely non-functional when he gets a little kid. When he gets something wrong with him, he's completely makes him ois mensch, and that he qualifies therefore as a chayil she'ein b'sakana. Okay, so that means is that the chayil she'ein b'sakana could take a lot of the things that we saw were problematic. Okay, again, the gel caps. Again, there are going to be two little exceptions in a second, but the gel caps we said those are shaliki derech achila.
Also, because they're swallowing it.
So that was last time. You have to chazar
So
sashir.
it's not considered.
Chazar sashir because it has to do because you don't eat it in the normal way to eat it straight, and not because you swallow it because you're eating it straight. We'll do chazar later. Okay. And the things that are only not bottom with the rabbanon, they're allowed to they do those things also. Okay, then the lowest category are people who are just have a mechush, they're just uncomfortable about something. Those people can't do any isurim. They can't violate any isurim, but that doesn't mean we can't let them do the ikar adin. Okay, if the ikar adin is something is mutter, like the trivials and the minor issues, those are really ikar adin. They would be mutter. So then the guy with the mechush, if he's really not feeling good, then he should do it also. Okay,
There's all different levels of mechush,
there's different levels of mechush.
It's different levels of mechush. I got a little tick, a little, thing bothering me, and then they have a guy that's, he's almost at the border of becoming a chayla, and he really needs to take this thing, he's not chayla yet, but, fine, I can go another 6 hours till, let's say, the Shabbos.
So do you think in din that makes a difference?
Yeah.
Do you think you're saying is whether he should go with ikra din or go with his usual chumras of what he wouldn't eat for food? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that could be. So again, the thing in really the mutter, if it was just a box of cookies, we would tell him not to eat it. So you're saying if the guy's not is basically okay, then
it's something the mechush. We get a tircha k'tzas. It's not the mechush. It's a problem. It's a problem. He's close to being a chayla. That's
okay. Fine. Okay. Now, two exceptions to what I just told you. Okay. The first is the Rambam says any kulas only apply if something's a refuah yeduah al pi mumcha. Okay. So like for example, in the mishpacha recently, it had an article about a guy he runs a Chinese restaurant, and he has a cure for cancer. He has a concoction made of grapes, cucumbers, turmeric, and broccoli, and it cures cancer. Okay, and he runs a Chinese restaurant. Okay, so Mr. Chinese restaurant who has this cure for cancer, that's not a refuah yeduah aydei mumcha. Okay, so if there was an issur to eat some of that food, you can't eat it. I think it was a kosher restaurant, but if you wanted to eat from this guy's concoction, you can't be over any issur to do that because that's not a refuah yeduah al pi mumcha. Okay, it's just some guys. He decided that's gonna. What do you say?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, not yet. Okay, maybe one day he won't be in Mishpacha. Imagine, probably the reason why he's not in Mishpacha. Yeah, one day he won't be in Mishpacha, he'll be in the Journal of Medicine Society, and we'll hear about it.
If it's like a homeopathic.
So, but then there are things that are not so clear where they belong, like homeopathic. And this is my third thing that I'm telling you we once talked about at a different time, which is decide is
it doesn't work.
it's a question you have to. It's actually not. Actually, studies have shown value, but that was for a different time we spoke about it. Wait, that doesn't mean it's not refuah yeduah. Placebo might be also refuah yeduah. We talked about it that time. Okay, so that the first thing is a refuah yeduah only works is only allowed to be reserved for refuah yeduah. And the second thing, and this is where we disagree something with some people, is that you can only be over an issur when there's no substitute. So if I walk into the pharmacy and they have Tylenol Tylenol's not made a good example. They have a medicine that comes in a tablet form or comes in a gel cap. I'm a kind of person who'd be allowed to take a gel cap because I'm sick enough I could take a gel cap, but I can just take a tablet. Okay, I come to pick up my medicine, I can take either one. So I have equal substitute. Okay, so I have no.
Why can't I always take out the powder from the gel cap? Why am I ever allowed to take the gel cap?
Well, in a hard gel cap.
Let's say a hard caps.
In a hard cap. So it doesn't gel cap also. So potentially you could, but you have to ask a pharmacist or a doctor before you do that. Because sometimes it's there to protect your throat. There's a reason. It's not just there because it's easy to swallow. Sometimes it wouldn't be safe for you to take it down like that. So you have to just ask. I'm thinking
you're talking about putting it in another cap.
No, he said
another capsule.
Just take it out.
Oh,
just
why
take
just
it.
put another cap? There are
Put it in the ice cream.
Most people don't have it.
Tamiflu, put it in the ice cream.
It's very hard to fill it. How do you fill it? It's not like.
Okay, so but the more that so far what I said so far wasn't so controversial. But what we have a question about is when there'll be the same medicine. Let's say there's now a new thing. Miralax. Miralax is okay. It's completely innocuous, made from petroleum. That's fine. But now they have orange flavored Miralax. Okay, so the flavor is we would tell you from a medicinal purposes, if it's from a medicine type of thing, don't worry about the flavor. It's uncertified. I explain to you why. Don't worry worried about it. Wait a second. I have an obvious choice. I get the same medicinal value by taking plain Miralax as if I take Miralax with orange flavor. So am I allowed to take this? Is that considered? I have a substitute. Why would I take the orange? I can take the plain one. Okay, so now, so what happens is like this.
So why wouldn't it be an issue of matnas and chafila?
What's a bitul is
Because the powder is you just said before, the flavor in the powder might not be batal.
Oh, in the middle, it's a fair question. So let's just talk about year round. Oh, what is it? Bitul is l'chatchila to put it. That's okay. I'm thinking of it like that. I'm not sure. It's a fair question. But let's pretend that I'm right. Okay, we'll take a different case because the middle actually have to dilute it. In my case, you also have to dilute it. Okay, I'll have to think about that. Okay,
The flavor might not be bottled in the powder.
that's what he's saying. I have to think about that.
You said that.
I said that before. It's true. I said that before. I haven't connected these parts together. I have to think about that. But the question is, so right now, if you ask CRC, the official rules would tell you is no, you can't take those things because there's a substitute. We don't tell you this, but the reason is because they have a substitute because they have the same equivalent thing without that. And others will tell you that follow like every other rule and just ignore it. Don't worry about the flavor. And really, it depends on the person. Okay, which is to say, it's like this. For some people, taking the non-flavored one, that's not an option. When you say it's a substitute, it's only a substitute if it really is. For some people, just can't get it down. Or they'll say, my grandmother's been taking this for 12 years. She's been taking this thing, like the orange one is new, but I'm taking the same medicine 12 years. I can't switch to something else. Okay, so then it's not an option for you. Okay, so that's a rabbinic call as to how realistic, how of an option, how much of a substitute this is. Okay.
So why do we say not recommended?
So we leave it as not recommended. If you tell me a good reason, if you tell us a good reason why you need
don't know what to ask.
Right. So, but
Maybe we should put some nusach there that indicates the shaila should be asked.
It sounds like it's treif.
Right.
that's true. That's true. Okay, we can think about it. It's not a bad idea. Okay.
It's like the liquor list. You have a middle ground.
Okay, so let me just now. I'm going to give you. I know we're out of time, but I like these slides anyhow. So you'll. And that is, there are 3 issues. Okay, and we have now. Really, we have a decision tree. Okay, what the steps you go through in deciding if something is okay. Okay, so what I told you last time and this time in a David Cohen type of form, you'll see. Okay, and that's like this. Okay, the 2 most common questions. Okay, the 2 most common questions. The first is. It's a tablet. It's a pill that you swallow. Okay, it's fine. Okay, you'll see why I have the boxes in these funny shapes in a second. Okay, I take this thing in an edible form and I take it in a pill that I swallow, and then it's fine also. The other one is it's made of ingredients that are completely fine. There's nothing to them. Okay, I want to take year round. I want to take Benevibrant, not for Pesach. It's chametzik. I want to take it year round. It's fine. Okay, the ingredients. There's nothing to them. You could take them. Okay, everyone could take them. Then we go like this. Now we have different steps. Okay, the first step is what happens if the ingredients are not innocuous. The ingredients are trivial. The purple bars to catch your attention to which part I'm talking about. Okay, so which the ingredients are. What'd you say?
That's my attention.
Took you right off the screen.
Okay, the first is if the ingredients are trivial. Okay, that was the lowest level. The things that are there's like we don't worry about them. So then, if there's a substitute, you shouldn't be using it. But if there's no substitute, then you can take it. Okay, now, what happens if the ingredients are just what's considered like a minor? Like in this case, I wrote here gel caps and some of those other things. Again, if there's a substitute, then you can't use it. If there's no substitute, then if you're a cholish ein b'sakana who could be over on issur and rabbanon or things like that, then you'd be allowed to take it. Now, what happens if it's a serious problem? Okay, the thing that's in there is something that might be issur midaraisa. So obviously, if there's a substitute, you can't take it, right? Just like all the other ones, if there's a substitute, you can't take it. What happens if there's no substitute? So now I need to think about how am I swallowing it? So if it's inedible, if it's a tablet, I'm still okay. It has in it something that's issur midaraisa, I could still take it. Okay, what happens if it's edible? So then if it's edible and it's a potential issur d'oraisa or it's an issur d'rabbanan that I know that's in there, then no only person in cholish yesh b'sakana is allowed to take it. If it's there's no last one I think. If it's shleik derech, then I'm taking it shleik derech. Let's say in the gel cap. So then I could take it if I'm a cholish ein b'sakana. That's it.